Elon Musk, the name that echoed through boardrooms, innovation hubs, and every corner of the tech world, had decided to test a theory. This wasn't the same Musk who graced the covers of magazines or commanded the attention of reporters at lavish events. No, today he was someone else entirely. Dressed in an oversized, worn-out jacket that looked like it had seen better decades, faded jeans with frayed hems, and shoes scuffed beyond recognition, he looked nothing like the billionaire mogul he was. A thick, fake beard hung low across his face, paired with a scraggly mustache, all topped off with a beanie that was pulled so low over his forehead it nearly covered his eyes. His presence was nearly unrecognizable, a stark contrast to the sharp suits and polished image people usually associated with him. It was intentional. He was about to embark on a social experiment, one that would reveal how the world treated someone when they stripped away all their wealth, status, and fame. It wasn't a stunt. It wasn't a publicity grab. Elon had no interest in being interviewed or making headlines today. He simply wanted to see if people could look beyond appearance if they could see the person beneath. Ahead of him stood Brew Haven, a modest coffee shop that hummed with a quiet rhythm of daily life. It wasn't part of any luxury brand, and it didn't serve up overpriced lattes with a side of ego. No, this place was simple and popular for its warm ambience and perfectly brewed coffee. The perfect setting for his experiment. The scent of freshly ground coffee beans and pastries wafted into the air as Elon approached the glass door. His reflection in the glass seemed like a stranger, a man out of place in his own skin. With each step forward, he could feel his own identity slipping away, buried beneath the layers of his disguise. Anonymity was a strange sensation, like a cloak that shielded him from the world. It was refreshing, yet unsettling at the same time. As he reached the entrance, a burly security guard named Rick took one look at him and immediately blocked his path. His thick arms crossed over his chest, and he eyed Elon like a bouncer at an exclusive club. "You can't just hang out here, buddy," Rick said, his voice firm. Elon didn't flinch. His heart beat at a steady pace, unshaken by the challenge. "I'm just here for a coffee," he said, digging into his jacket pocket for a crumpled wad of cash. Rick raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "What do you think you're doing here?" "I'm here for a cappuccino," Elon replied, his tone steady, unbothered. "And I've got the money to pay." Rick hesitated, sizing him up, his gaze lingering on the worn-out clothes and the fake beard. For a moment, Elon thought the guard might turn him away, but after what felt like an eternity of silence, Rick grumbled something under his breath and stepped aside. Elon walked past him with a calm, measured pace. The air inside the cafe was warm and comforting, filled with the hum of quiet conversations and the clinking of coffee cups. As he moved toward the counter, he could feel the eyes of the customers on him, a few curious glances darting his way. He welcomed it. This was exactly what he wanted, a glimpse into how people would treat him when they didn't know who he was. The two cashiers behind the counter caught his attention. Ethan, a young man with an approachable demeanor, greeted him with a warm smile. On the other side was Cindy, her face set in a scowl, clearly irritated by something, maybe the very idea of serving a customer who didn't fit the place. "What can I get for you?" Ethan asked, his voice light and friendly. Before Elon could respond, Cindy rolled her eyes, so loudly it almost seemed intentional, muttering something under her breath that Elon couldn't quite make out. He let it slide. There was no need to let her rudeness affect him. "A cappuccino, please," he said, keeping his voice calm, almost soothing. Ethan nodded eagerly, ready to serve, while Cindy didn't even bother looking up from her register. She shifted her weight, letting out a long, exasperated sigh as though Elon's presence was an inconvenience. He could feel the sting of her disdain, but he didn't let it show. Instead, he focused on Ethan, whose genuine kindness was a stark contrast to Cindy's dismissive attitude. Minutes later, Ethan returned with a cappuccino, the steam rising from the cup like a promise of warmth. He placed it gently in front of Elon, a genuine smile on his face. "There you go," Ethan said. "Enjoy your drink." Elon's fingers wrapped around the warm cup, and he took a slow sip. The bitterness of the coffee, the smoothness of the foam, it was perfect. He glanced around the cafe, taking in the interactions between the other patrons. Some smiled, others whispered, but no one spoke to him. They had no idea who he was, and it was oddly liberating. Cindy, still behind the counter, continued to mutter sarcastic comments under her breath, as if Elon's very existence in the cafe was some kind of cosmic joke. It was clear she couldn't see past his appearance, and that disappointed him. He had hoped for more. But as he observed the world around him, he realized that Ethan was the exception, not the rule. In a society so obsessed with appearances, kindness, and decency had become rarities. Elon sat quietly by the window, sipping his cappuccino, watching the world go by. The experiment was over, but the question lingered. How much of who we are is shaped by what we wear? How much of us do people truly see? Elon watched as Ethan balanced kindness and professionalism with effortless grace, even when dealing with difficult customers. His demeanor was steady, never swaying, no matter how irritable or demanding a person could be. But Cindy, she was something else entirely. Every customer who approached her seemed to get a dose of impatience, tinged with judgment. It was almost as if she had already decided who was worthy of her time and who wasn't, based entirely on their appearance. A middle-aged woman came up to the counter, trying to ask a few questions about the menu. Cindy barely glanced at her. With a sharp snap, she barked at the woman for asking too many questions, barely managing a smile, if one could even call it that. The woman walked away, clearly upset, and Elon could see the tension in her posture as she left. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to engage with his customers, offering smiles and lighthearted conversation, making them feel valued, no matter their station in life. As he sipped his coffee, Elon's mind began to drift. He wasn't just testing customer service today. No, this was much bigger than that. He was testing the human tendency to judge based on appearance, to assume that the person standing before them is somehow defined by the clothes they wear and the way they carry themselves. Elon had always known people were quick to stereotype, to make assumptions based on the surface. But to witness it firsthand, to see how Ethan was treated with kindness, while Cindy cast her judgmental glare on anyone who didn't fit her version of what a proper customer should look like, was both fascinating and disheartening. When he finished his cappuccino, he stood up slowly, the steam rising from his cup, and made his way back to the counter. Ethan was wiping down the counter, still smiling and chatting with a regular. Cindy, on the other hand, was engrossed in her phone, seemingly oblivious to the growing line of customers waiting for her attention. Elon cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the air with a quiet authority. Ethan looked up, startled by the interruption. "Hey, Ethan," Elon began, his tone calm. "I just want you to know, you're a good man. A very kind person." Ethan blinked in surprise, his smile faltering slightly as the words sunk in. Thank you, sir," he stammered, clearly unsure of the situation. Elon nodded warmly, watching the shift in Ethan's eyes, the way he seemed to stand a little straighter, his confidence slowly building. But Elon wasn't done yet. He turned his gaze towards Cindy, still glued to her phone, the very picture of disinterest. "You're different, Ethan," Elon continued, his voice dropping a notch as if he were confiding a secret. "You understand what it means to treat everyone with respect, no matter who they are." Ethan gave him a shy, almost embarrassed smile, but before he could respond, Cindy's voice sliced through the moment, dripping with contempt. "What's this all about?" she muttered, still not looking up. "You're just a barista. Why would he want to help you?" Elon's gaze shifted to her, his expression unreadable. "You know, Cindy," he said slowly, "kindness is something rare these days. Maybe you should try it sometime." Cindy didn't respond. Instead, she simply rolled her eyes and continued texting, oblivious to the significance of the moment. Ethan, still processing what had just happened, looked back at Elon. A look of realization crossed his face as the gravity of the situation began to sink in. This wasn't just a passing compliment. This was something more. Elon smiled knowingly and pulled out a sleek business card from his jacket pocket. He handed it to Ethan, who took it with trembling hands, his eyes wide in disbelief as he read the bold name printed on it. "Elon Musk," Ethan whispered under his breath as if the name itself was a spell. "That's me," Elon said, smiling. "I've been watching you for a while. You have a good heart, Ethan. And I think you deserve more than just this job. Call this number tomorrow." Ethan's mind was spinning. He stared at the card, still unsure if he was dreaming. He hadn't even spoken to Elon before, and now here he was, handing him a lifeline, a chance at something more. But just as he began to process the offer, Cindy pushed forward, her expression cold and sharp.
"What are you doing?" she snapped.
"Why would he want to help you? You're just a barista." Elon didn't flinch. He simply turned to Cindy and said, "Sometimes people see more than just a job title. Maybe you should try it." Ethan stood there, frozen, staring at the card in his hand, the weight of what Elon had just said crashing down on him. He wasn't being seen for what he wore or what he did. He was being seen for who he truly was. And it felt like a revelation. The next day, Ethan dialed the number on the card, his hands shaking as he spoke to someone from Tesla's HR department. When the receptionist confirmed his appointment for an interview, his disbelief deepened. It felt like a dream, like he had somehow stepped into a storybook where the unlikely was always possible. When he walked into Tesla's sleek headquarters a few days later, he felt like a fish out of water. The building was pristine, towering above him like something out of a futuristic movie. Employees walked by in sharp suits, carrying an air of confidence that made Ethan feel small. But when the interview began, something clicked. He spoke passionately about his degree in automotive engineering, about his dreams of working with cars, and about the work he had done at Brewhaven to support his family. And somehow it was enough. He got the job. 2 days later, Elon called him personally. "Ethan," he said, his voice warm over the phone. "I've got good news. You're hired. Welcome to the team at Tesla." Ethan felt like the floor had been ripped out from under him. This was it. This was his chance, and it had come when he least expected it. He called his family first, the tears of joy from his mother echoing in his ear, while his father, a retired mechanic, beamed with pride. Ethan's new role at Tesla changed everything. He moved his family to a better neighborhood, and for the first time in years, they could live comfortably. His salary was enough to make all the difference. He never forgot the lesson Elon Musk had taught him that day, how a simple act of kindness could change the course of someone's life. As for Cindy, her story was a little different. Word of her attitude spread quickly, and her behavior caught up with her. She was eventually transferred to another branch, far from the bustling streets of Brewhaven. Her rudeness had cost her the respect of her colleagues, her customers, and ultimately, her place at that cafe. Ethan, however, continued to work hard at Tesla, never forgetting where he came from. And every time he passed Brewhaven, he remembered the day that had changed everything for him. The day when someone saw him for who he truly was, not for what he appeared to be. And with that, our story comes to an end. If you've enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that'll make you think, feel, and wonder. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day ahead.